All right, guys, today we're going to be reacting from the black conservative perspective. CNN gives Kamala Harris brutal reality check as Trump surges and campaign basement strategy is backfire. Let's jump in.
The last thing, which is, do the American voters not need to hear from her directly? She wants to be the commander-in-chief. We paid attention to her, and you guys didn't like that either. So the interviews.
It's funny.
Go ahead. I'll give you the last one.
It's funny. I hear the question, and it's funny because it's like you're acting like she's in the witness protection program. She's been traveling across the battleground states, talking to thousands of people in packed arenas, arenas that are much more packed than what President Trump is speaking to.
And look, and I think
people
scripted interviews
that on the news,
scripted speeches are great. But it's different from doing an interview. And also, she hasn't had to explain why she has done the flip-flop on fracking, the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and now even banning plastic straws.
But Dana, you're Dana, not you, Dana,
yes,
but
I know Dana
last week on CNN in a fulsome sit-down interview asked her questions about all those things. So I just think it's inaccurate to say she's not answering these questions. Okay. She sat down and did a long interview last week to explain her positions on these issues and how her views have developed, being the vice president to President Biden, how she's gotten so much done. When you talk about fracking, you know, this is the vice president who cast the tie-breaking vote on the biggest piece of legislation to spur clean energy job growth in American history.
Yeah,
that's
which
what
led
she's
to inflation, which is causing retirees to have to go back to work. Anyway, I love talking to you. You have been a really good person for me to be able to reach out to, and I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on the show. I hope we'll have you
Always
back.
happy to be
I know
here.
you're working long hours, and we appreciate you.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about more bad news for Kamala Harris, because according to Nate Silver, who is a Democrat, by the way, her chances of beating Trump are declining by the day, okay? And the reason why is because Kamala is not getting the post-DNC boost that was expected, that happens historically, and that is bad news. Even though in the mainstream liberal media polls, Kamala Harris is leading in the popular vote, it is effectively a tie when it comes to the electoral college. And if that is the case, then best believe the internal polls for Kamala Harris and the Democrats are worse, okay? And historically speaking, okay, Trump has overperformed in the polls, and that is why you're seeing Nate Silver basically giving Trump a 61.5% chance of winning. And this is a complete reversal from just a couple weeks ago. August 23rd, Nate Silver had Kamala Harris at 53.5% and Trump at 46.
Wow, in a matter of just how many days? That is like 14 days, counting the August was until the 31st. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of change. Look at that. Wow.
1%. Okay, it's completely flipped. Okay, we're talking about a whole month of Kamala Harris campaigning in the basement, nothing but fawning from the mainstream liberal media. Okay, and she's only done one interview in which she hasn't really explained why she's been flip-flopping on her policies. She's put out policies that are basically socialist, communist adjacent, right, in regards to what she's trying to do for the American people. And it just seems like this whole basement strategy, whatever she's doing, is now starting to backfire, okay? And I'm hoping that's the case, because I am praying that the American people are not as dumb as the Democrats think that they are, okay? Because the Democrats are basically certain that the American people are dumb, okay, that they're stupid, and that is how Kamala Harris is running her campaign, with the assumption that the American people are dumb, okay? And this is why she doesn't feel the need to come out and to really articulate herself in regards to what she really wants to do, and to explain why she's flip-flopping on issues, which we're going to talk about more here, because I think that is probably the issue that Kamala is facing, is that the campaign strategy of being in the basement, right, which is the same strategy that was used by Joe Biden in 2020, that's not going to work anymore, right? And again, you're starting to see it kind of backfire. So let's read more about what Nate Silver is saying, because a lot of people are upset with Nate Silver because he's putting out these predictions basically saying that, yeah, Kamala's not doing great right now. He's just being 100% honest that she's not doing good in the polls, right? Her support is declining. He says, quote, "One of the reasons I'm not super sympathetic to complaints about the convention bounce stuff is that Harris is in fact on the decline in polls over the past couple of weeks. in most of the key swing states. And here's a longer version of my story on the state of the race. The Electoral College popular vote gap has gotten quite bad for Harris. Now a 20% chance she wins the popular vote, but loses the Electoral College. I'd also note that Harris's raw polling averages have declined in most swing states since the start of the DNC. This data is not subject to the convention bounce adjustment. She had a run of pretty mediocre state polling.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically what he's saying is that, listen, Kamala's not performing as well as she should be performing post-DNC. Okay, she did a CNN interview. Clearly, that didn't move the needle. In fact, it might have made things worse, which is why they're running the basement strategy. But everybody is now saying that, hey, it's kind of weird that Kamala Harris isn't doing any interviews. And despite the fact that the Kamala campaign continues to claim that she's talking to the American people, which she's not really talking to them, she's talking at them at her rallies, saying the same thing over and over and over again.
And you know what's crazy? A lot of these surrogates, they go to these interviews, they pretend that people are this dumb. So I think these liberal millennials that are college educated, the way they see the rest of America is literally like we're dumb as hell. That's how they see it, that you, as the American, you don't have the capability to really make decisions based on, you know, simple, rational thought. You don't. You're just as dumb because you haven't gone to college, or you're just dumb because you're not part of their circle. They really think that we're this dumb, but it's not working, folks. You know why? Because we have alternative media. And thank God for that. And a lot of people are getting educated.
There are some people like Leonard McKelvey, a.k.a. Charlemagne the Devil, who's a Kamala Harris stan, that can see the problem with Kamala's current strategy and how this could backfire and be the reason why Kamala loses the election.
Man, this whole election is interesting because it's going to be close come November. I like how, you know, the vice president is hitting the ground and speaking to people in these battlegrounds.
Yeah, there we go.
But I do
that's
feel...
it. That's a talking point, man. You can literally tell this is literally a talking point that the Democratic Party gave him to always repeat. Bro, this is propaganda, man. This is straight up from the Soviet Union, man. This is crazy stuff.
I think she does need to do more outreach in the press. Because I believe it's a lot of excitement within the party and in like that blue bubble, but she got to excite the folks outside of that bubble, because I don't want this to be one of those elections where she wins the popular vote but loses the electoral college vote.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
She's starting to do interviews, right?
No.
I've seen she's doing something with Ricky Smiley. I thought she was doing something else I seen next week. So maybe she is getting out there.
Yeah, an interview with Ricky Smiley, right? Ricky Smiley, who's a comedian. That is what Kamala Harris is doing, okay? I think she's trying to take a page out of Trump's playbook, okay, and trying to do podcast interviews and stuff like that with people who are very friendly towards her, okay? Ricky Smiley is a Kamala Harris stan, okay? He's one of these men out here that is very questionable in regards to their masculinity, okay? That, you know, supports Kamala Harris, and that is what she's deciding to do, right? She's going to do an interview with that guy, okay? We may cover it when it comes out. But it's not just people like Charlemagne the Devil, Kamala stands, saying that this strategy could be backfiring. And especially if you consider how, historically speaking, Trump overperforms in the election versus the polls.
Yep.
If the election were held today, that could be a huge problem for Kamala Harris. CNN is admitting this, and Fox News is admitting this. They're both admitting the same thing, which is that Kamala Harris is in big, big, big trouble.
Number one, I was first surprised by how well Kamala did right off the bat. But what I'm surprised by is after the DNC, she has had no additional bump. Right. And the other thing I'm surprised by is if you look at where Biden was at this very same point in the race, he was ahead by 7 points in the race. Right now, Kamala is just ahead by 3. Hillary was ahead by 4. So she's not doing as well as any of those candidates did. And if you look at the details, if you look at how she was doing with Black voters, Latino voters, across the board there, she's not doing as well as her predecessors did. And that's not good news for her, especially because Donald Trump has a history.
That was cringy. Y'all saw how Featherman was trying to give her a kiss. Look at
Black voters, Latino voters, across the board there, she's not doing as well as her predecessors did. And that's not good news for her, especially because Donald Trump has a history
She looks so weak as hell, man.
of overperforming the polls. Whatever the polls say, he usually does between 1 and 3 points higher, and the general sometimes even more than that.
Right? How close they are.
You know, sometimes we look at these 7 close states and, you know, you see all these numbers that are up there and you go, I can't make heads or tails of it. So I just want to sort of combine them and look at the Democrat versus Donald Trump in those 7 closest battleground states. Look at the 2020 final margin and average across these 7 states. It was Biden plus 0.9 points. You don't think that could get any closer? We can, in fact, get closer. Look right now, Kamala Harris up, but get this, by just 0.6 points on average. Only about half a point, 0.6 of a point. My goodness gracious. That is how tight we are talking right now across these 7 battles.
Now, you guys are making it tight because you guys need to sell your advertisement. People have to be locked into the news. That's what it is, folks. I'm telling you, that's what it is. They're trying to every election somehow. The reason they wanted to make the election as 2016 and 2020, like Biden and Hillary was very ahead, is because she was not ahead. They were not that ahead for that long, for that margin. It's that they need to just pretend that things are, you know, close, and they're not, folks. They're not. She does not have the presence. She's out there doing this strategy. Trump just almost got indicted. He's almost going to go to prison. He's always in the news. You always see him. There's going to be a time where conscience is going to kick in and say, like, look, hold up. This Kamala lady, she just, you know, their strategy is basically like, okay, hold up. Don't do any interviews. Let's see how the debate goes. The fact that they have to say that means that they don't trust her. She's not a strong candidate.
Battleground states. It is a race, Mr. Berman, that is well within the margin of error when you look across these 7 key battleground states that will determine this election.
You look at this and you go, 0.3%. They're basically the same. But you're talking about actual vote margins that were so small. So show us the difference that a polling margin can make.
All right, so let's just say the polls match up perfectly to what the results end up being. Kamala Harris would win this election with 292 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 246. But let's just say we move the current polls, and let's say the result differs by them by a single percentage point, and Donald Trump is the beneficiary of it. Look at this. If Trump outperforms his current polls by just a single point, you take that Kamala Harris win, and look at this. Donald Trump gets 287 electoral votes, because the bottom line is Pennsylvania would flip up here, and you would also get this flip out in Nevada over here. And that, my friends, is what we're talking about. We are talking about the closest campaign in a generation where a single point could make all the difference in the world. John, this is a truly exciting race right now where any slight movement can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? This is CNN admitting that, hey, if Trump just...
So what they're saying is basically, hey, Kamala, you need to step it up. That's what they're saying.
Overperforms the polls by 1 point, which he has done, historically speaking. In the 2016 election, he overperformed. In the 2020 election, he overperformed. If he overperforms by just 1 point, he's going to win, okay? As of right now. Now, I think it's a pretty safe bet. And again, this is why you're seeing the models from people like Nate Silver showing that Trump has over a 60% chance of winning, and it continues to go up. Yeah, I mean, based off history, I think there's a pretty good chance that Trump is winning right now, right? Again, I find it hard to imagine if the election was held today that he wouldn't win. Like, I actually have a lot of confidence that he will win. Now, this is not me being overly confident or trying to make people complacent. No, it's actually the exact opposite, okay? It is me saying that, listen, guys, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to finish the job, okay? We have to vote like never before to make sure that we finish off Kamala Harris for good, okay? That is the point of what I'm saying. So with that being said, Kamala, she's struggling, okay? And one of the reasons why she's struggling, in my opinion, is because this basement strategy is backfired, okay? She's not answering questions that she needs to answer about some of her past positions, some of the positions that she had before in the past, okay? Because she is trying to distance herself from those positions, but she's not actually coming out and saying it herself. All of this is coming out through her campaign advisors. It's coming out through anonymous.
To campaign advisors from media pundits. No, she did that. No, she's not standing on it. It's like, but you never hear her saying it, because that means in the future, she can do those things that she never. So how can I say this? In the future, she basically can go with what she really believes, but then you cannot cash her. You cannot cash her in a lie because she never said it. See, this is politics. The way the politics is written right now is in a weird way because you can have these kind of the system, right? The systems, the status quo can work in a way where they can push you to just keep that status quo. But then when it's time to hold you accountable, hey, you don't have the evidence. I never said that. The pundit said that, but I never said it. You see what I'm saying? So this is where we are right now.
Emails and stuff like that. That is not cutting it, right? It's not cutting it, okay? Because we have too much evidence and proof that Kamala Harris is basically a socialist, okay? We have way too much evidence. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, I'm not sure exactly what she believes. I don't know anything about her. And the fact is that she's not really explaining why she's flip-flopping on her positions. And it is, at this point, a really bad look to the average person who's still trying to decide who to vote for when you don't know what you're getting out of Kamala Harris, okay? Even CNN is...
Man, if you don't know who you're voting for at this point, man, it's the reason why you should not even have the right to vote. I'm just keeping it honest with y'all. You're not doing your homework. You're not in the trenches. You're not doing all these things, right? At this point, you don't know who you're voting for. You should not even vote because you're not doing your homework. You're thinking about yourself. Way too much.
Running segments like this, basically going after Kamala Harris for using Trump's border wall in her advertisements, while in the past she was against the border wall. But now all of a sudden she's trying to pretend like she's for securing the border, okay, and against unfettered illegal immigration, which has been the policy of the Biden administration, open borders. And even CNN, they're not buying this. So let's get into it.
Tonight, investigates. In a new report, you'll see first out front. The K-File team scoured Kamala Harris's tweets and statements going all the way back to 2017. And what they found was more than 50 instances of Harris slamming Trump's border wall.
Wow.
And now, new Harris campaign ads actually showcase that very wall.
Wow. They don't like her, folks. They don't like her.
As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
And on top of critical tweets, Harris also wrote in her 2019 book, quote, "There was a bigger reason to oppose the border wall. A useless wall on the southern border would be nothing more than a symbol, a monument standing in opposition to not just everything I value, but to the fundamental values upon which this country was built. Wow. How could I vote to build what would be little more than a monument designed to send the cold, hard message, keep out?"
Wow.
Well, K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. So, Andrew, I mean, you all have gone through, scoured an incredible amount of material. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. We found more than 50 of those tweets criticizing the border wall before she used that in her ad. And I want people to take a look at just a few of what she said here. She called it wasteful, useless, a waste of taxpayer money, a vanity wall project, a wasteful border wall, a stupid wall, a medieval vanity project, and an unnecessary wall. And those are really just, there were more of this, just like 10 or like 50. But there was really a lot of this was the common refrain during the campaign. You read that quote where she said it was against everything that not only she stood for, everything America stood for, but and she brought this up a lot. Take a listen to just one instance of that in 2019.
It's the president's vanity project. His multi-billion-dollar vanity project called a wall is nothing more than a distraction from the fact that he actually hasn't focused on working people in America.
That's such a politician.
He contrived a national crisis around his big distraction.
All right. Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. And I'm going to tell you why it's a huge problem. Because when you look at the totality of Kamala Harris, okay, and how she's trying to rebrand herself in 2024, it's not working because there's just too many things about her that she's changing that I think really turns people off, right? It makes people...
Yeah, you can tell CNN, the fact that CNN is doing even this kind of reporting, it just gives you like, they don't even like her. Actually, I must say, Probably CNN told her, hey, we can help you out. We can make multiple interviews. Just need to give us like a confirmation we're good to go. She probably said, no, after this, after that. No, let me check. And probably CNN by now is like, you know what, F her. Because if this was Biden or Hillary Clinton, they would never do a report like this. Never.
Uncomfortable. I'm not sure how you can vote for Kamala Harris and feel comfortable with it if you're voting for her because you think that she is a moderate, right? Or that she has truly had a change of heart, okay? Because she basically said that Trump's wall was everything that this country does not stand for, right? I mean, it was a symbol of what this country is against, okay? Those were some very, very, very harsh words, right? In regards to how she felt about the wall. Now, all of a sudden, she's embracing the wall, but she's not explaining why. You can't just say, oh, well, I changed my mind, and you're not explaining why you changed your mind, especially considering how what you originally said, again, those were some very harsh words, right? Those are things that Kamala said that to me seems to be what she actually really believes, okay? This was something that was heartfelt, right? Otherwise, she would not have said it the way that she said it. So when you have that type of change, right? Because now all of a sudden you're running for president, people want to know why. And because Kamala Harris is not explaining why, my gut feeling is that makes people uncomfortable, right? Because there are a lot of people who probably, they want to vote for Kamala Harris, right? They probably wish that she was the centrist that she's pretending to be. But they're uncomfortable with voting for her as that centrist because she hasn't explained, okay, why are you now centrist on these issues? Why have you changed on these issues? And in my mind, I think she would just be better off coming out here and saying, I was wrong, okay? I was naive back then, and being vice president, I know better, right? I learned a lot, and I've changed, right? And my views change with reality. It changes with the data, and this is what I've learned. Now, the reason why she really can't do that is because low-key she would be throwing Biden under the bus, right? Because Biden and her have been pro-open borders, okay? And in order for her to actually admit that she was wrong, she low-key has to throw Biden under the bus, and she doesn't really want to do that. So she's trying to thread the needle here, and I just don't think it's working, right? I think it's actually backfiring. At some point, she has to choose, right? She can continue to run the basement strategy so that she avoids trashing Joe Biden. But if she does that, then again, it creates mistrust among people. If she comes out clean and actually starts to do real interviews and explains why she changed her positions by saying that I was wrong, this is why I was wrong.
Oh, she's never going to say that. She's never going to say that because that's accountability. And have you guys ever met a politician that is accountable? No. Trump has been the only one. He was in Dr. Phil and all the podcasts, and he said, you know what, I messed up. I just, hired the wrong people, so on and so forth. But you think Kamala Harris is gonna say, you know what, we were wrong. We allow a lot of illegal immigrants come in, but I'm going to do, this time around, I'm going to fix it. No.
Joe Biden under the bus, okay? So, she's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think ultimately if she wants to win, she's going to have to accept the fact that she is going to have to throw Joe Biden under the bus, right? She's going to have to distance herself from Joe Biden and say, listen, Biden was wrong for X, Y, and Z reasons. I wasn't a part of all this stuff, okay? Which, again, would be hard for her to do because she cast a tie-breaking vote for a lot of Biden's extreme policies like the Inflation Reduction Act, which Biden came out and admitted wasn't really about inflation, right? It was about green projects, right? The government wasting money on things like that. Yeah, she just really, at this point, doesn't have any really good options, okay? She really doesn't. I think she's screwed regardless.
So you go through all of that, you've got all the tweets, and yet all of a sudden in the ads, there's pictures of the wall, and then you went through to look at that wall. Like, what is that specific wall that's in her campaign ads now? And you found something very interesting about this specific portion of the wall.
And I think what's also really remarkable about this is, you heard her talking about it there, Trump's wall in his campaign during his presidency. There was really no greater symbol of Trump's presidency than the wall and the way that Democrats were attacking him over the wall and his restrictive immigration policies. So we looked in that ad, and if you look at it, that exact area of wall is in Sasabe, Arizona, and that is a portion of wall that was actually built by Donald Trump. It was built in an area where there was not previous wall. It was actually pretty controversial when they were building it at the time. So just to see that, and then there are other.
She's using his wall that he built to say, "Look at what I did."
And the other
Throwing
images
her
of
under
the
the
wall,
bus.
we weren't able to pinpoint, but there's telltale signs that that was a Trump wall because there's an anti-climbing plate on top that became popularized during the Trump years.
It's really incredible reporting and important. All right, Andrew.
Yeah, and if they did more of this, if the liberal media did more of this, if they were doing this from the beginning, right, then Kamala definitely would be losing by more than she's losing right now. Okay, so yeah, what Kamala's doing right now is not going to cut it. Right, it's not going to cut it. There's just too much flip-flopping. Okay, and I think she's creating a lot of mistrust among the people.
Yep.
That, along with the fact that we have questions about her fakeness down to her identity, right? Even who she is as a person, right? And this is why.
You know what's crazy? She still hasn't come on and say, "Hey, I'm a black person," and you say so. You're if you say something different, you're racist. She hasn't said that, so that's interesting. Let me know what you guys see in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one.